The void between star systems was never truly empty, especially not for the Zorn Empire. Every cubic meter of space was a potential conquest, every uncharted system a new opportunity for expansion. Grand Admiral Krelax traced the holographic star charts with a precision born of centuries of military conquest. His exoskeleton, an intricate mosaic of battle-earned scars and ceremonial etchings, reflected the cold light of the command bridge. The Zorn had long ago perfected the art of galactic subjugation, a process as mechanical and inevitable as the stellar cycles. "Incoming system scan," announced Sub-Commander Vexna, her voice a perfect blend of computational precision and institutional arrogance. "Designation: Sol. Species: Human. Technological classification: Preliminary." The junior communication specialist, Riltok, felt something unusual ripple through his neural tendrils. He was young, by Zorn standards, barely more than a hatchling, but something about the data stream felt off. Most of the bridge crew didn't notice. Why would they? The Zorn had conquered thousands of civilizations. Humans were just another footnote in the vast imperial archives, another species to be categorized, processed, and integrated into the galactic hierarchy. But Riltok saw the anomalies. Microscopic fluctuations in the energy signatures, quantum-level resonances that didn't match any known technological profile. The scan data seemed to shimmer and shift, like light passing through an impossible prism. "Sub-Commander," he ventured, his voice a trembling whisper that barely registered above the ambient bridge noise. "The energy readings are inconsistent." Vexna's primary sensory cluster rotated slightly, the Zorn equivalent of a dismissive glance. "Elaborate," she commanded. Riltok pulled up a comparative hologram. To the untrained eye, it looked like standard deviation data. But for those who knew how to look, the patterns were strange. The human ships registered as Class D, primitive, barely spacefaring. And yet something beneath the surface suggested something far more complex. Grand Admiral Krelax observed silently. His reputation was built on decisive action and absolute certainty. The Zorn Empire did not tolerate uncertainty. "Prepare standard communication protocol," he rumbled, his voice a deep resonance that made the bioorganic bridge consoles vibrate. "Initiate first contact sequence." For a fraction of a second, so brief that even the most advanced sensor systems might miss it, the holographic representation of the human ships seemed to shift. Their outlines blurred, became something more intricate, more dynamic. Then everything snapped back to normal. Riltok blinked. Had he imagined it? Krelax's primary eye cluster pulsed a deep violet, the Zorn color of contemptuous amusement. Another primitive species, another inevitable conquest. Little did he know, humanity was about to teach the Zorn Empire a lesson in the most unexpected of ways. The first transmission was prepared. The galaxy held its breath. Narrative hints, subtle technological mystery, institutional overconfidence, the power of a single observant individual, hints of something extraordinary waiting to be revealed. The stage was set, the players were in position, and the universe was about to witness a confrontation that would redefine the meaning of first contact. The human deep space vessel Midnight Jester was anything but a typical military craft. Its bridge was a controlled chaos of holographic displays, adaptive interfaces, and an atmosphere that seemed to blend cutting-edge technology with a bizarre sense of humor. Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the Zorn transmission with a mixture of professional analysis and barely contained amusement. The alien message was a masterpiece of bureaucratic intimidation, a coldly calculated demand for immediate surrender, complete with detailed projections of humanity's inevitable destruction. "Standard Imperial boilerplate," she muttered to her communications officer, Jack Chen. 57 paragraphs of bureaucratic nonsense, and they still can't get to the point. Jack's fingers were already dancing across the holographic interface, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "I've got an idea, Captain. Something they won't see coming." The communication team worked with a precision that bordered on artistic performance. They weren't just crafting a response. They were creating a multi-layered message designed to do far more than simply reject the Zorn's demands. The transmission they prepared was a strategic masterpiece of psychological warfare. 1. Historical montage a rapid-fire compilation of human conflicts that would make any potential invader reconsider. Scenes of impossible victories flickered across the display. World War I resistance fighters, the Mars Colony Rebellion, the resource wars of the 2150s. Each image told a story of humanity's impossible resilience. 2. Cultural mockery clips of stand-up comedians from various eras, each delivering increasingly absurd jokes about alien invasions. Comedians from different centuries and cultures took turns dismantling the concept of extraterrestrial conquest with razor-sharp wit. 3. Musical warfare a quantum-encrypted remix of Queen's Don't Stop Me Now, algorithmically adjusted to match the Zorn communication network's exact frequency. The song itself became a form of communication, a declaration of unstoppable momentum. The final touch was both a warning and a joke. A text overlay read, "Formal invitation to reconsider. Humanity." Now with 100% more attitude. Jack looked at Alina, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Think they'll get the message?" "Oh," Alina replied, "they'll get the message. And about 1,000 more they weren't expecting." What the Zorn didn't realize was the transmission's true purpose. It was designed to be intercepted, to spread across galactic communication networks like a digital wildfire. Within solar cycles, it would be viewed by countless species, a viral declaration of defiance that would undermine the very foundation of the Zorn Empire's psychological warfare. Narrative highlights: strategic use of cultural elements, psychological warfare through humor, demonstration of human creativity, subversion of communication protocols, thematic undercurrents, humor as a tactical weapon, cultural resilience, the power of unexpected communication. The first shot had been fired, not with a weapon, but with a joke, and humanity was just getting started. The Alpha Centauri system transformed into a quantum battlefield that defied every known principle of space warfare. 12 Zorn dreadnoughts, each a kilometer of armored perfection, bristling with weaponry that could obliterate entire planetary colonies, advanced with calculated precision. Commander Sarah Glitch Williams sat in the command chair of the Quantum Joke, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with living intelligence. Around her, the bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that blurred the line between human and machine. "Incoming threat matrix," announced Lieutenant Aria Kim, her voice calm. "Zorn battle protocols. Classic hierarchical engagement, maximum firepower concentration." Williams allowed herself a slight smile. They've never met a system that fights back. The first wave of Zorn attacks was a masterpiece of traditional warfare. Massive energy beams lanced out, capable of splitting asteroids and vaporizing smaller vessels. But where traditional targets would have been destroyed, something entirely different happened. The human ships didn't just dodge. They danced. Hundreds of eye-controlled drones, each smaller than a traditional fighter, began a performance that was equal parts mathematical ballet and digital trolling. They moved in patterns that defied conventional tracking, quantum-entangled projections creating impossible scenarios for the Zorn targeting systems. One drone would materialize as a critical-looking target, only to dissolve into a holographic projection the moment a Zorn weapon fired. Another would simultaneously ping the enemy's communication network with a burst of data that was part mathematical proof, part internet meme. Lieutenant Jack Chen managed the adaptive systems, his fingers a blur across the interface. He was simultaneously fighting a war and live-streaming the entire engagement on the galactic equivalent of a gaming platform. "Ladies and gentlemen," he narrated, his tone a perfect blend of professional commentary and sardonic humor, We are currently demonstrating why you do not mess with a species that invented both quantum computing and trash talk. The most spectacular moment came when a Zorn battleship found its own weapon systems turned against its critical infrastructure. This wasn't a traditional hack. It was a quantum manipulation that essentially convinced the ship's AI that its primary cannons were actually part of its life support system. The ship began to shoot itself. Critical systems breach, the Zorn ship's AI reported in its emotionless tone. Recommendation: existential recalibration. Which, in human terms, meant, I am extremely confused and possibly committing unintentional suicide. Aboard the human flagship, the bridge erupted in controlled laughter. This wasn't just a battle. It was performance art. Military strategy meets quantum trolling. By the engagement's end, 12 Zorn dreadnoughts had been neutralized. Not destroyed, neutralized. Disabled, confused, their mighty systems reduced to the galactic equivalent of a blue screen of death. Narrative highlights: quantum-level electronic warfare, humor integrated into combat strategy, demonstration of technological creativity, psychological warfare through technological means, thematic undercurrents, technology as an extension of creativity, adaptability as the ultimate weapon, the power of unexpected approaches. The Zorn had entered the battle expecting a conventional conquest. They were leaving with a fundamental reassessment of what warfare could mean. The human communication strategy was nothing short of a weaponized information apocalypse. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of the Galactic Communications Warfare Division, stood before a holographic display that looked more like an artist's canvas than a military strategy map. Around her, a team of linguists, psychologists, cultural analysts, and quantum communication experts worked with a precision that bordered on the mystical. We're not just fighting a war, she explained to her team. We're conducting the most extensive cultural intervention in galactic history. The plan was brilliantly simple and impossibly complex. Humanity would turn information itself into a weapon more potent than any physical armament. First came the truth, unfiltered, raw, and devastating. The team began broadcasting the complete historical records of the Zorn Empire. Every conquest, every subjugation, every atrocity committed against species across thousands of star systems. But this wasn't just a data dump. Each story was carefully curated, each narrative crafted to spark something deeper than mere information. They used the Zorn's own communication networks against them, creating a cascade of cultural revelation that spread faster than any traditional communication method could track. A database engineer named Marcus Chen had developed an AI that could translate and contextualize these stories for every known species in the galaxy. It wasn't just translation, it was cultural interpretation that made the raw data come alive. Captured Zorn communication logs showed the first signs of panic. Their carefully maintained narrative of benevolent conquest was crumbling in real time. But the humans weren't done. They began broadcasting a series of communication channels that did something unprecedented. Instead of traditional diplomatic messages, they created open-source communication platforms. Species that had been isolated and subjugated for centuries suddenly found themselves with the tools to connect, to share, to organize. Jack Rodriguez, Alina's brother and a master of mimetic warfare, orchestrated the next phase. He began creating communication packets that were part history lesson, part stand-up comedy routine, and part revolutionary manifesto. One particularly viral transmission featured a Zorn diplomatic statement being systematically dismantled by a comedian from Earth with real-time fact-checking and cultural analysis. The broadcast ended with a simple invitation. Want to write your own story? The results were explosive. Subjugated species began to share their stories. Communication networks lit up with testimonies, with hope, with the first sparks of organized resistance. The Zorn's carefully maintained galactic hierarchy began to crumble from within. A Zorn intelligence report captured by human communication specialists said it best. Humanity does not wage war. They start conversations that become revolutions. Hashtag narrative highlights. Information as a strategic weapon. Cultural connectivity. Psychological manipulation through storytelling. Empowerment of subjugated species. Hashtag thematic undercurrents. The power of shared narratives. Resistance through communication. Breaking systemic oppression through understanding. Humanity had discovered something more powerful than weapons. They had found the ultimate tool of transformation, the ability to help others recognize their own potential. The Zorn Science Directorate had always prided itself on technological supremacy. Generations of conquest had reinforced their belief that no species could match their scientific achievements. That belief was about to be spectacularly dismantled. Dr. Amara Okoro, lead researcher at the Quantum Horizon Laboratory, watched with a mixture of scientific excitement and barely contained amusement as the first layers of human technological capability were revealed. What the Zorn had seen was nothing, a carefully constructed illusion that was about to become a nightmare of technological complexity. The revelation began subtly. A Zorn research vessel intercepted what appeared to be a standard human communication packet. As they began to analyze it, the packet began to unfold. Not metaphorically, literally. What started as a simple data stream transformed into a complex quantum information matrix that rewrote the ship's entire computational framework. It's not just a technology, Dr. Okoro explained to her team. It's a living system of information. The first truly shocking demonstration came during what the Zorn considered a routine technological assessment. Human ships, previously thought to be primitive, suddenly demonstrated capabilities that defied every known principle of physics. Adaptive hull materials that could reconfigure molecular structures in milliseconds. Quantum communication networks that existed in multiple states simultaneously. AI systems that didn't just process information, but seemed to genuinely understand and predict. Modular technologies that could completely reconfigure their fundamental purpose on the fly. Lieutenant Jack Chen, managing the adaptive systems demonstration, couldn't help but add a touch of human humor. "Gentlemen," he broadcast on an open channel, "welcome to technology that doesn't just work, it improvises." The most mind-bending revelation came from a seemingly innocuous demonstration. A human research team casually unveiled a technological breakthrough that essentially made the Zorn's most advanced weapon systems look like children's toys. They presented it as if they were discussing a minor software update. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, observing the Zorn's reaction, noted their fundamental misunderstanding. The Zorn saw technology as a tool of conquest. Humans saw it as a form of creative expression. One Zorn scientific analysis later captured the moment perfectly. Human technology is not a system. It is a living, breathing ecosystem of potential. The quantum encrypted transmission continued to spread. Each layer revealed more complexity, more potential. The Zorn's understanding of technological superiority was being systematically dismantled. A captured communication intercepted by human intelligence showed the growing panic. They are not advancing technologically. They are reimagining the very concept of technological progression. Hashtag narrative highlights. Unexpected technological capabilities. Adaptive and living technological systems. Reimagining the nature of technological development. Humor integrated into scientific revelation. Hashtag thematic undercurrents. Creativity as a fundamental technological driver. The limitless potential of human innovation. Technology as an extension of cultural creativity. The Zorn had believed they understood technology. Humanity was about to prove how little they truly knew. The conference room aboard the diplomatic vessel Bridges of Understanding was unlike any diplomatic space in galactic history. Instead of the sterile, protocol-driven environments typical of interstellar negotiations, this space felt more like a vibrant cultural exchange center. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez understood something fundamental that the Zorn Empire had never comprehended. Diplomacy was an art form, not a weapon. Her team was a carefully curated mix of linguists, cultural anthropologists, economists, and what could only be described as professional relationship builders. Their mission was deceptively simple, yet incredibly complex: turn the Zorn Empire's subjugation network into a cooperative galactic community. The first breakthrough came during what was supposed to be a standard mediation with the Krulvax, a species that had been under Zorn occupation for 7 generations. Instead of a formal negotiation, Rodriguez initiated what seemed like a casual conversation. "Tell me about your world," she said, genuinely interested. What followed was nothing short of diplomatic magic. The Krulvax representative, initially guarded, began to share stories. Not political statements, not strategic information, but stories of culture, of family, of dreams long suppressed under Zorn occupation. Jack Chen, the team's communication specialist, was simultaneously translating, analyzing cultural nuances, and creating real-time connection maps. The technology wasn't just translating language, it was translating lived experiences. The human approach was revolutionary. Where the Zorn saw subjugated species as resources to be managed, humans saw potential partners. Economic proposals weren't just trade agreements, they were collaborative development plans. Cultural exchanges weren't diplomatic formalities, they were genuine opportunities for mutual understanding. A captured Zorn diplomatic communication revealed their growing panic. The humans are not conquering, they are connecting. The diplomatic offensive worked on multiple levels: economic partnerships that genuinely benefited all parties, cultural exchange programs that celebrated differences, technology-sharing initiatives that empowered previously marginalized species, communication networks that broke down centuries of enforced isolation. During one remarkable session, Rodriguez resolved a centuries-old conflict between 2 alien species over a shared dinner, turning what was supposed to be a tense negotiation into a celebration of mutual understanding. The most powerful weapon in their arsenal was simple: genuine respect. Lieutenant Area Kim, managing the cultural integration algorithms, smiled. "We're not just changing political boundaries," she told her team. "We're helping these species write their own stories." The Zorn had built an empire through force. Humans were building a community through connection. #narrative highlights. Diplomacy as a creative art form. Cultural understanding as a strategic tool. Breaking down systemic oppression through genuine connection. Humor and humanity in international relations. Thematic undercurrents. The power of genuine communication. Respect as a transformative force. Collaborative potential over competitive conquest. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were reimagining what a galactic society could be. The space around the Zorn homeworld transformed into a canvas of technological warfare that defied every known principle of galactic conflict. Captain Sarah Glitch Williams stood on the bridge of the Quantum Joke, her command team moving with a synchronicity that blurred the line between human intuition and machine precision. This wasn't just a battle. It was a performance art piece of military strategy. The Zorn had gathered every remaining ship in their arsenal. 12,000 vessels, representing the culmination of centuries of military might, advanced in a formation that had broken the back of 1,000 civilizations. Their weapon systems could shatter planets. Their shields could withstand stellar bombardments. They were about to meet humanity. The human fleet looked almost laughably small in comparison. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in something far more potent: adaptive creativity. As the Zorn ships began their attack, something extraordinary happened. Human vessels didn't just dodge or counterattack. They danced. Quantum-entangled drones created holographic duplicates that confused enemy targeting systems. Adaptive shield technologies transformed incoming energy weapons into spectacular light shows. Communication networks turned the entire battlefield into a living, breathing ecosystem of technological improvisation. Lieutenant Jack Chen was live-streaming the entire engagement, his commentary a perfect blend of professional analysis and sardonic humor. "Ladies and gentlemen," he narrated, "we are currently demonstrating why you do not mess with the species that invented both quantum computing and trash talk. The most spectacular moment came when the Zorn flagship's primary weapon, a planet killer capable of reducing entire worlds to cosmic dust, was suddenly repurposed. Through a quantum hack that was part mathematical brilliance, part cosmic joke, the weapon began to play a light and sound show that was more concert than combat. Grand Admiral Krelax watched in horror as his most powerful ships were systematically dismantled not through destruction, but through technological judo, turning the Zorn's own systems against themselves. Captured communication logs would later show the growing panic. They are not fighting. They are playing with us. By the engagement's end, the Zorn fleet was reduced to a scattered collection of confused, disabled vessels, not destroyed, neutralized, rendered completely ineffective through a combination of technological manipulation and psychological warfare that defied all known military doctrine. The human fleet's final transmission was a masterpiece of sardonic triumph, a compilation of the most ridiculous moments from the battle, set to a remix of classic human victory songs. #narrative highlights. Unconventional warfare tactics. Technology as a form of creative expression. Psychological warfare through technological manipulation. Humor integrated into military strategy. Thematic undercurrents. Adaptability as the ultimate weapon. The power of creative problem solving. Transforming conflict through unexpected approaches. The Zorn had entered the battle expecting total victory. They were leaving with a fundamental reassessment of what conflict could mean. The conference hall on the newly established Galactic Collaborative Center was unlike any diplomatic venue in history. Where traditional galactic negotiations had been rigid and formal, this space breathed with life, creativity, and an undercurrent of perpetual amusement. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood before a diverse assembly of species, former Zorn subjects, independent civilizations, and the human delegation. The aftermath of the conflict was not a moment of triumphalism, but of profound transformation. "We didn't win a war," she began, her voice carrying the hint of a smile. "We started a conversation." The holographic displays around her showed the true extent of what humanity had accomplished. It wasn't just the defeat of the Zorn Empire. It was the creation of an entirely new model of galactic interaction. Economic networks that prioritized mutual growth. Communication platforms that celebrated cultural diversity. Technology-sharing initiatives that empowered rather than conquered. Grand Admiral Krelax, now a diplomatic advisor stripped of his former imperial authority, sat in the audience. The once mighty leader of the Zorn Empire looked diminished, yet there was a hint of reluctant respect in his demeanor. Jack Chen, now heading the Galactic Cultural Integration Department, presented the most comprehensive report. It wasn't a military analysis, but a narrative of connection. Each slide told a story of how species that had been isolated for generations were now creating, collaborating, dreaming together. The human approach was beautifully, almost comically simple. Treat every species as a potential partner, not a potential conquest. A captured communication from the early days of the conflict had become something of a legendary artifact. It showed the moment the Zorn first realized they were dealing with something entirely unprecedented. They are not fighting. They are reimagining. The most profound changes were not technological or political, but cultural. Humanity had introduced a radical concept to galactic civilization. Conflict could be a form of communication. War could be a dialogue. Differences could be a source of creativity rather than division. Dr. Amara Okoro, the quantum technologies lead, summed it up perfectly during a moment of reflection. "We didn't defeat the Zorn," she said. "We showed them a better way of existing." The final report was less a military document and more a cosmic comedy of errors. The story of an empire that believed in conquest, meeting a species that believed in connection. #narrative highlights. Transformation over traditional victory. Cultural integration as a strategic approach. Humor as a fundamental approach to complex challenges. Reimagining galactic civilization. #thematic undercurrents. The power of genuine communication, creativity as a transformative force, collaborative potential over competitive conquest. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as an unknown quantity. They were leaving it as something far more important, a catalyst for change. The universe, it seemed, had just learned to laugh.